So yeah, let's just start a stream and see how we do. It says excellent for the data going through. That's always a good sign. Yeah, and I think it says live as well. But I'm not sure yet. We'll see.
My YouTube windows. Oh no, my YouTube window just went live. Okay, no, we're live.
All right, we're live.
Hey,
excellent.
it worked. Great.
Okay, well, hello everyone. This is next to me virtually is Daniel from the original safing team, and I'm Victor from IVPN. We had some technical hiccups. This is the first time I'm hosting this, and I had to figure out all the necessary steps, which we have done. But testing doesn't mean success, immediate success when you go into production. I think you can you have some experience with it, Daniel.
Everything went perfect in testing a few hours ago, and now
it was like 3 minutes, and now it took like 20 to get set up. But yeah, that's how it goes. Yeah. All right, I'll just ping the live channel about this development, this happy development. So everyone know that we are live at live.
Great.
So yeah, I was thinking about maybe this is the first or one of the only live streams where Rafael is not present on the Safing Live.
That is true. Probably the only one until now.
Okay.
I think he was present.
Interesting.
Because, he's kind of the host and manager.
Yeah.
So he actually did a couple of them like solo.
Okay.
Because of circumstances. But I don't think there ever was one where he wasn't part of it. So yeah, that's the first one.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's definitely a new one for everyone here.
Yeah, but thanks for joining me. I think we found it appropriate to do it with these people present because you have worked a lot on the V2 development. You've started way before we have joined.
That's true, a long time ago.
And Sasha have started working on the bug fixes. So yeah, I think today we would like to talk about V2. Just give an overview and a recap of the underlying changes and the improvements and why were these necessary. What shall we note about these and how it could be beneficial for the Portmaster users. And then after that, we might have some other topics. And of course, questions. If you have any questions, please post. You can post on YouTube, on Discord here. And and then we'll talk a little bit about the future as well. We had some progress in our conversations on the IVPN side, where to go from here. And I think it would be interesting for people to that we talk about. We'll see how much time we have. We have from this point we have roughly 45 minutes. We'll see where we get to. So
So super happy to be here. Really cool that we're actually nearing the Portmaster V2 release. That is really, really cool. And there has been a tremendous effort by the IVPN to get there. And it was a very good working together, joint effort with weekly update calls where we kind of discuss current developments, remaining issues, and where we go through kind of the roadmap and kind of just really all hands working together to make Portmaster version 2 a reality. And that was really an enjoyable experience working so closely together with the IVPN team. And I now know that Portmaster is in absolutely amazing hands. And I'm so much looking forward to what IVPN will bring to Portmaster in the future. But on that later. There will be some small things maybe that Victor will share. But now we're going to first cover things that happened in V2. And for everyone who wants to already use it, you can already install Portmaster version 2 if you want to. There is a separate section on the download page on safing.io. And there's also, if you're coming from Discord, there's an announcement in Discord with a direct link to there. So with that, let's hop into why version 2 and
Sure.
why was it necessary, what's in there. So we've started talking about version 2 well a long time ago, it feels. Um, and the idea of a version 2 sprang up because there were like repeated requests for features that weren't exactly that easy to implement. So one of the big features that were out there was, can we have offline installers? And with how Portmaster modeling and structure and up system worked, that was hard. So we thought about how can we change it? What would be the best step forward? And other things like, can we have a installer for NixOS, kind of a very um, upcoming trendy Linux distro that kind of has this immutability aspect to it that like previous more old-fashioned Linux distros did not have. And these were kind of challenges that were not particularly about the core of Portmaster and its functionality, but more how does Portmaster integrate into the operating system on a lot of levels. And that is the kind of primary focus of Portmaster version 2 is the how does Portmaster integrate into the operating system. That starts from the installer to where it's installed to how it interacts with the system and so on. And there are a lot of improvements here. And we'll go through them now. So the first, which I already mentioned, is offline installers. So in Portmaster version 2, we've completely reworked the update system and how that works and made it compatible with a kind of installer approached kind of update cycle also. So you can install Portmaster version 2 and then keep it updated with installers. So if you have kind of a very confined environment with very limited internet or no internet, you can also install Portmaster and keep it updated there. But especially what a lot of people asked for was to be able to prepare a machine offline before it ever goes online. So now you can take Portmaster, install it before your machine goes online, and have it kind of be protected from the first second it is on the internet. So that's now possible with Portmaster version 2. Next up is with that kind of the new update system from the other side, which is now faster, it's more optimized, but it's also a lot simpler and um, and more versatile. So what that means is currently we were restricted to kind of one download origin, which is the safing update server. But in the future, with the new update system, we'll be able to serve content from multiple locations, meaning that it's easier to also include a CDN. And that will be important for everyone who is very far away from Europe, where currently the update server is located, or the update server cluster, actually. So it's already quite scaled to handle all of that. So because we've got reports, especially from Eastern Asia, Southeast Asia, also South America. So locations with a very high latency to Central Europe. And they reported having really slow download speeds. And we were like, but our update server capacity is nowhere near its limit. So the issue clearly is the network itself, not either end. So this change to the operating system will enable us to host um, installers or updates also on a CDN, making Portmaster a lot more available globally, which is great to um, bring privacy to even more people faster.
That's nice. Yeah.
Next up is improved install paths. So previously, Portmaster took a approach that favored ease in development to enable faster update cycles. And now we're switching to kind of more standardized install paths that are kind of more correct, so to say, on both Windows and Linux, which will make Portmaster play nicer with the whole operating system tooling and what is expected by things, especially for like immutable distros like NixOS, Fedora, Silverblue, and so on, which also have different kind of rules and states applied to different directories. And now that the files are in the correct place, this will work better. Also, of course, with the installers. So now it will work that kind of the correct directories will be mounted as read write for the updates to work and that stuff. So we'll also have kind of improved. We already have this improved compatibility with these distros, which does not mean yet that there are packages for NixOS already. There are packages for Silverblue. That is
Yeah, I got
something.
some DMs about that, so
Yeah,
thanks for
yeah, yeah. So
thanks for clarifying that.
yeah, there were like really fast requests when we started V2 testing. So we totally see it, and we're still kind of figuring out like what the best way to go for with that is. Does it make sense to build up know-how, or is there someone in the community who's like, sure, I do NixOS every day. I'll just kind of create this community managed package for you. So if there's anyone of you out there who wants to manage a package for NixOS, for Fedora Silverblue, or any other distro, please reach out. That would be a tremendous help. Really great. But yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
I can say that like that one of those DMs was about exactly about this and exactly about NixOS, and I haven't. Of course, I responded and we had a conversation, but I haven't made a commitment to this because we just simply wanted to get through the first stages of this process and the handover and the V2 release, and then we'll able to figure out all our ongoing and future processes that we can lay out for them, for how to do these steps in the next that is maintainable and durable for the next couple of years. So if anyone who DM me about this, I'll respond with a firm plan. I can promise that in this live stream, but so far
yeah,
I was not able to do that. So, but yeah, please reach out.
great.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. So next up is actually a new module, and that is one of the two things that are kind of new within Portmaster. And the first one is DNS monitoring, and we've touched upon this earlier in previous live streams, but I'll kind of give it a complete picture here. So DNS monitoring is about knowing which DNS queries your system sends. And so how this worked previously is that that's kind of the most obvious path to just say, okay, Portmaster is now your DNS resolver and does that for you. And also when we first started building Portmaster 7 years ago, stuff like encrypted DNS was kind of just starting to spread. So we were like, well, that's an obvious win for privacy. So we'll just include a encrypted DNS server in Portmaster, and your OS will send all its queries to Portmaster. Portmaster will encrypt them and send them forward to a privacy-friendly DNS service of your choice. And that worked pretty great. And that's also how Portmaster knew which DNS queries were asked for and kind of knew the answers, and then could also match connections going from your device out to the internet, and would know, okay, this IP address is that domain because I saw that query earlier. And that's how that worked, and that was great until DNS, encrypted DNS or DNS over HTTPS, DNS over TLS started to be a lot more widespread. And today, both Linux, and Windows have native clients um, kind of already built into the OS for that. So, and also there are other software wanting to do that and everything. So there are more and more conflict about DNS, and VPN providers started doing more DNS and everything. So kind of felt like everyone is doing DNS, and of course that led to conflict, and that led us to reevaluate. Okay, what is that was 7 years ago. That was the best choice then, totally. But now we're 7 years later. What's the best choice now? And we concluded that Portmaster doesn't have to do secure DNS, but Portmaster needs absolutely to know which domain points to which IP address from the perspective of your device to be able to know where things are connecting to. So we set out to find ways how to obtain that information through other means other than forcing Portmaster to be your security DNS resolver. And we found ways, both on Windows and Linux, where Portmaster could take itself out of the active path of DNS resolving and just ask the operating system to report any DNS queries and the results to Portmaster. And that's exactly what we did. So there's now a module within Portmaster that will also ask the operating system to just report what it sees so it can have information. And so with Portmaster version 2, what you can do is you can go to the settings and you can just remove all DNS servers from the DNS server setting, and then Portmaster will stop enforcing itself as a DNS server. And that, of course, means that now Portmaster will not lose visibility, but when it stops enforcing itself, other resolvers can then step in and be a resolver. And also that will make things more compatible with the operating system, but also most notably with other privacy services. For example, VPN providers like a VPN. So there will be a lot more compatibility with Portmaster version 2 with other privacy tools. So
Yep.
that's definitely a big win here for the ecosystem, for the community. And we're really glad to have found this way to be able to make Portmaster more compatible.
Yeah, and it's very interesting that you've mentioned this direction of where things headed in the past, let's say, 5 years. And I think you've made this choice and made this exploration uh, to start this before we have decided to join forces, let's say. And
Yeah.
it's very interesting because for us, it's this is great, and we have had these conversations specifically about DNS. Essentially, we have already have products in the market that want to handle or should handle or can handle DNS, and
Hmm.
we are also working on a DNS filtering tool similar
Nice.
to some out on the market. That's further down the line. It's still in heavy development, as they say. But there when we're talking about this, okay, so people need more tools, need better tools. We use these tools as well. It just makes sense that we start exploring these different directions. But the VPN and this more specialized DNS filtering tool and the Portmaster, essentially that sometimes the lines are pretty blurry. Where which should be responsible for which operation, and this inherently creates this clash where you just
Yeah.
have to find a solution. So in the future, someone might use IVPN with a custom DNS set where they use our DNS resolver, and but also use Portmaster with the VPN tunnels in. So it might create some more clashes or more things that we need to resolve. But yeah, we are on the right path. So this
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, this is very 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 exciting to see that uh, we are adding this. Um, yeah, do you want to
Oh, sorry.
wrap up?
Yeah, there's one left, or
Yep.
one thing left in V2. So um, the second thing important that's new is that Portmaster used to be using a database technology called Bbolt, which is a key value based kind of in kind of built-in database. It's not running a database server, a separate one. It has this built-in database system, and to store configuration data, but also for caching. And the problem with it is that it is really fast, but it's not perfectly stable, and also the databases just grow really fast, and that's something that like especially long-term corporate users were seeing, is that there was like actually the cache database like grew quite big, so multiple gigabytes, and that's something we're like, okay, we want more stability there, and we want small database sizes. And so what we did was something that we could have done earlier, but we kind of went back to the default database for that, because it's just like so battle proven, so stable, and yeah, so we switched to SQLite. And because that's just a database that's used like for so long by so many people, and it just performs really well. And of course, on the performance side, it doesn't match your use case as perfectly as the other one, the other database, but it has small database sizes and it has the stability. And we thought, okay, this is definitely the one to prefer in this case. And the performance impact is only noted in very specific cases. So for example, if you're installing, then after you install, Portmaster would download the filter lists, if not bundled already, we'll load them into that cache database. And that will maybe take, instead of taking 30 seconds, it will take a minute. That's of course not great, but like looking at the trade-offs between kind of waiting a little bit longer at the beginning, but then having stability and small database size, but like, yeah, but that's definitely the way to go. And that's what we also want to be Portmaster to be. We want Portmaster to be reliable, Portmaster to be always be there, not have issues, always have your back. So that's definitely what we want Portmaster to be. So it was logical to go like, okay, yeah, that's the way we want to go. That's where we want Portmaster to be. So that's also now in Portmaster version 2. But there's a small catch here. If you're upgrading from Portmaster version 1, it will copy the old Bbolt config database to the new location, and we'll continue using that. We did not want to do a full database migration because that is really tricky, and we didn't want to risk data loss here. So if you're migrating from Portmaster version 1, your config database will still use the old database. But the config database is the one that usually has less issues anyway. It was the cache database that was kind of growing large and everything. And that will kind of transition anyway, because the cache database is a cache, and we're just going to delete or not migrate it, and we'll just create a new cache database on the Portmaster version 2 install. So that's how that migration works. If we really want everything on SQLite, you'll have to start from scratch. I'm sorry. That's just the most stable way that there is, and we wanted to opt for that. But that kind of concludes the overarching Portmaster version 2 feature set. So this is not kind of a big, huge feature set like, oh, this new big, amazing feature that's now version 2. No, it just has to be version 2 because there are breaking changes,
Exactly.
and you'll have to reinstall it. And the easiest way to communicate that is telling, okay, this is now version 2, and this also version 2 lays the groundwork for a lot more future work on Portmaster, which means it is also a start of a new era, which you won't feel right away, but will come in time. Yeah, so I think that concludes Portmaster version 2. Or any questions maybe regards to that, or anything from you, Victor?
Yeah, I appreciate the summary. I've known most of these things, but I've also it was really nice to hear all that recap. So yeah, appreciate that. I kind of like collected all of the questions that we have received. I think there's one very specific about the bug that disables the notifier from working properly after the device
Oh
has
yeah,
been offline for
yeah,
some
yeah,
time. I
yeah.
think that's is this the one that also Sasha has
I'm
catched
I'm
or
I'm not sure, but there's one thing that we've forgotten, like in all our communication in the last month or so about Portmaster version 2. And there's one big thing that is changing between Portmaster version 1 stable and Portmaster version 2, and that is we're finally getting rid of Electron. And people who've been with us for a very long time remember when we introduced Electron because whatever we had before didn't work out. Now we're kind of going back to more or less that because it has improved tremendously. Because, um, well, even Microsoft acknowledged that like everything in Electron is not a good idea. So there's a lot better support for web views provided by the OS, and now um, Portmaster is using a system called Tauri, which
yep.
is a framework written in Rust, so it's really fast, it's really performant, and it reuses a web view provided by the system. So it's also really small. It's not anymore like 150 megabyte download for every update. It's just I think 20 megabytes or so. It's performant, it's fast, it works well, integrates great with the system. Um, so there's a lot of performance improvement on that side too, and that's really nice. And there's a big change that comes with that too, because previously, if you're familiar with Portmaster architecture, there was the core process, and then there was the notifier, which was a separate program, and then there was kind of the user interface app. So there were like three components, and with the switch to Tauri, we're merging these two, meaning there's only core and the UI. And the UI is kind of one packaged thing. So the notifier you see is not the same thing as Tauri, and the notifier is not written in Rust and not in Go anymore. So which makes it a lot easier for all these custom integrations with the operating system, for example, for notifications. So if you're talking about a bug that existed in a notifier in Portmaster version 1, chances are whatever bug that code was in, that code doesn't exist anymore. So I'd encourage you to switch to Portmaster version 2 and check if everything works there for you. If not, please report the bug and it will be looked into.
But, we appreciate the question from Energetic Wolf 26115 because it give us a chance to talk about the tower shift, which we might have missed otherwise. So
Yeah. So yeah, that's a big thing, kind of getting rid of Electron.
yeah,
That was interestingly also a big point in support where also GitHub issues where people reported Portmaster using loads of resources. And it
yep,
took a while until we figured out they don't mean Portmaster core, which is really lean on resources, but they actually meant the user interface, which of course runs Electron, shows lots of data, renders a lot of stuff. And of course, that takes quite some performance to do all that. And that is now also improved with Tauri, where it will take less resources, but it's not running yet another browser engine
yep,
just for that. So that's also nice to have performance improvements there.
nice.
Yeah. Okay.
There are a couple of SPN related questions from two sources. Again, one from Energetic Wolf and the other is from Scaramuch. So one is about the SPN speeds, which the question is it being worked on? If so, when? And do we already know the reason for the SPN speeds sometimes being let's say subpar in his interpretation? I can
Mhm.
give you some ideas on the potential future, let's say, but maybe about the present and the past. Can you
Yeah.
pick that
So
up?
I asked on Discord if you can give a reference to exactly which bug he means, and
Okay.
unfortunately didn't answer yet. So
I think that was a different question. I think.
okay, so then maybe I didn't see the question you're referring to.
Yeah, I think this it's in the beach bar channel. So yeah, I just skimmed through the
Oh,
yeah.
okay,
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 yeah. So
okay.
that's why I'm.
I didn't.
We'll have some questions that you might have not seen, but yeah,
Oh, yeah. Okay, there are a lot of questions here. I didn't see them yet.
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. So about the SPN, I think one key area is about the speeds. Like um, some some users might want to see speed improvements, and you know what is the reason for not having, I don't know, external speeds, and the other one is to is around um, the questions around traffic analysis,
Hmm.
similar to things that similar to, for example, move ads data, and there's a
Yeah,
question against around the BGP attacks. So uh,
yeah, yeah. Okay, let's start with SPN speed.
okay.
Um, so let's first set kind of the scene. The scene is that SPN does a lot of things that others don't do. SPN routes your traffic through multiple servers. SPN does onion encryption. SPN does traffic analysis protection, and all that stuff, of course, isn't free. Especially going over multiple servers has a very high cost in terms of latency. And also, if you like would go that every traffic go through multiple servers, there's also a lot more bandwidth in play here. So there, of course, is somewhat of a kind of natural limitation to the speed. So if you have SPN being optimized and a VPN being optimized, the VPN will most probably always win, just because the system is a lot simpler and there are fewer moving parts in play and everything. So there is a natural limitation, and um, you probably won't kind of with a VPN provider with at least on the same level. You'll probably get better speeds with your VPN. So that said, let's look into how SPN works and on kind of what challenges there are. Um, SPN is not a network level kind of relay. It's an application level relay. So it doesn't actually send the data of the network packet itself over the system, but it sends the data of the application over the network. That's also how, for example, Tor works. So SPN omits the IP address and all that's in there, and it doesn't even send that over the system, because why waste bandwidth sending stuff over there that, in worst case, can only get you identified, because IP addresses are identifying information. Um, so the idea was to just, okay, let's just omit that information. But that, of course, came with its own set of challenges. And one of the challenges is that when we're omitting network information, we're also omitting network controls like congestion control, um, kind of like traffic shaping, traffic, what's it called? Yeah, traffic control. So, and that's kind of the information that the network needs to know how much data to send that will also arrive, in order to not kind of over use the network, but also not like underuse the network. So, kind of find a good way in the middle. And that meant that we had to re-implement that for SPN internally, which proved to be a bit more difficult than we hoped it would be. But of course, um, we're not staring away, because things are hard. That's the whole reason we built all that stuff, because we knew it would be hard, and we knew we need to overcome these challenges to bring superior privacy to the community. So there are already multiple implementations of this. of this congestion control system within SPN. And that is one of the things that makes the whole uh, thing difficult to be able to control traffic so that's really fast, but also we're not wasting any resources, also an expense to of the experience of other users. So, and what makes this even more challenging is that um, the SPN, that kind of touching now on the anti-traffic analysis
Yeah.
stuff. The SPN doesn't simply do random routes or just have one tunnel through the network for everything, but every connection has its own tunnel or kind of to an exit server. More specifically, to every exit server you're using, there is a separate tunnel, but it's not completely separate because complete separation of things means it's easier to identify. So that means that whenever two connections go between the two same servers, they actually reuse your existing connection already that you have there. It means you can kind of put a lot more traffic into one pot and make it a lot harder to fingerprint.
Makes
Um,
sense.
and in the end, your Portmaster's SPN client builds a tree-like structure through the whole network, enabling you effectively to be everywhere at once. And that kind of what makes SPN so unique and so powerful in terms of privacy. But that, of course, is from a perspective of traffic and congestion control, a pretty unique and difficult problem
Yeah,
to
challenging.
solve to keep everything fast at the same time. So that's definitely one of the points that isn't yet done. And there are already multiple systems working together in SPN to make this as smooth as possible. And we're still working on making this better, and IVPN will take over here and continue these improvements to improve the speeds on there. If there are like very specific like use cases, then I could give more a detailed answer maybe to some aspects, but that kind of is the overall picture. Why are SPN speeds limited? Because congestion control is hard,
Yeah,
and
thanks for that review.
that's a not an easy task to get right. But all the tools are there and all the possibilities, so there's definitely room for improving that, and I'm looking forward to see what IPVPN will be able to get out of there in terms of performance.
Yeah, thanks for the overview for that. I think, yeah, just a general point I always make in tools and about privacy and about just about anything else is there is always a trade-off. You know, if you there's no way out of some drawbacks that come from the design choices that you make to get that kind of um extra benefits and extra additions to how it fits into your threat model. But yeah, there's always, of course, improvement possibilities. I think for it might be a good segue into one of the topics I wanted to talk about. There were, and then we can get back to the questions at hand. Is that there were discussions around resources put into Portmaster and then perhaps SPN and the improvements on the IVPN side. And I completely understand that people can be skeptical or can look at at a VPN company and be skeptical. Historically, that's been a good choice, I would say, but not about IVPN. Um, and this is very relevant to Portmaster and SPN as well. So I just wanted to give some clarity on how we are going to operate these and improve these services. So the IVPN team has it's been most of our colleagues have been with the team for 4 or 5 years, and we have a pretty tight knit team, very senior people who really know their specific work and the specific areas, and deeply familiar with building services like this, networks like this, and also just with the necessary security and privacy mindset. So we can move pretty fast. And the way we think about the future, and this is our current present now, is that we have multiple services now. So we are going to run 4 services by the end of the year, hopefully. Right now we run 2, and we are going to start 2 new services, which will be, let's say, less complex than the VPN and Portmaster. So one is an email forwarding tool and a DNS filtering tool. Less complex in a way that it doesn't require a lot like a lot of continuous development and maintenance. However, the IVPN team has dedicated developers for essentially full-time developers specifically for each service, and then the supplementary team, let's say, so the rest of the team is split between all services. So imagine you have a senior, autonomous, self-motivated QA person. He has the ability, and also it's a very good use of resources, human resources, that he can split his time depending on the priorities at hand. And this is also true for customer service. This is also true for accounting and my time about communications and just operational questions. So in the past, I think for Portmaster, let's say there were in the past year or past 2 years, there were, let's say, 2 to 3 full-time people working on all aspects of the service. This will be definitely true. It's true today, and it's definitely going to be true going forward. And hopefully, if we see the adoption and the growth, we'll scale that up even more. So I just wanted to give some clarity on that. And this also means that we will put ample resources towards developing Portmaster and also SPN. And now, just to get to the point of the answer to this question, so the SPN, I think, and I'll be very honest here, the SPN in terms of like what we'll do and what we can do, that is most likely not on the agenda for the next let's say 6 months. Simply because we have many other priorities, and one of those priorities is Portmaster. So we just want to, which I will talk about separately. But on the networking side, if you think about these split resources. So on the IVPN side, we are very much in the middle of maybe the, let's say, third quarter of a very long and very complex infrastructure project where we essentially are going to replace our whole infrastructure. And we'll see about the exact pacing and the steps. We have deployed 2 or 3 new servers, which are test servers. We have mentioned this publicly, but there are no blog posts about this. These we are looking for gradual but radical improvements on our existing infrastructure. So first, they are RAM-only servers, and there are going to be other building blocks that will improve the transparency and the accountability of these VPN services. Of course, this is a much different ballgame than SPN. But the reason I bring this up here, that most of our resources around infrastructure are allocated to this. Of course, besides the handover, which have been completed fully, and we are now fully operating all the safing and SPN related infrastructure. So we are looking at some projects on the infrastructure side relating to resiliency, overall monitoring. So let's say smaller projects for the next 6 months. But in terms of like sitting down and allocating those resources to SPN, where there would be a major project and major improvements, and maybe we have to rethink some parts about like the community nodes or scaling. Well, rethink in terms of the positive improvements and not rethink in terms of winding them down. But we have to want to take those steps and then allocate the necessary resources and then draw up projects for that. So that's for SPN. For Portmaster, that's a different question. As I mentioned, there's a full-time developer working on the future improvements. So on the Portmaster side, and I will just go ahead and discuss that part as well. The first major thing that we will definitely do is a deeper IVPN integration into Portmaster, which is going to be optional. No one's going to be forced to use it. It's not going to affect the other compatibility with other VPNs. You can fully ignore that part and you have the same fully functioning product as before. We are sketching out the details of this, how it would look like from the usability and just generally feature set perspective. But the high level idea is to offer something like how you would or you're using SPN in Portmaster. So if you have an IVPN subscription, then you will be able to do tunnel all traffic through VPN, but also per app. So this in the VPN lingo, it's more something like split tunneling, but for Portmaster, it's a very specific and very important part of it. So how this would look like, different tunnels, different exits, configurability, that's all open question. Maybe it's going to be also gradual, but this is an important step. And there was a question around subscriptions and maybe merging or synchronization between these two. So I'll talk about that a little bit later. I just want to get back to the SPN side. Just close those open questions and that loop. We talked about the speed, and you talked about the traffic analysis AI part. Anything else you would want to add, or we can move on?
I'll just add a couple sentences to the traffic analysis because there was a specific reference to what Mova is doing and they're kind of adding cover traffic and essentially doing same size packets. So SPN has always had a very strong emphasis on protecting against traffic analysis. That's kind of the whole point of this, as I explained before, this tree-like structure where in this tree structure, every part will have different traffic patterns. And these traffic patterns are further changed by the internal traffic that the SPN itself needs. So there is some sort of covered traffic already there, but it's not excessive. It's just to some extent, and we gain the most of this by splitting up traffic in different trunks at different sections. And also what SPN does is it puts everything, all packets it sees, with packet data, it kind of puts together into new packets. So it actually repackages all the data into fixed size packets, which are kind of not every one of them is like the full size because it will waste your traffic and make you slower, but they're kind of fixed steps in there that SPN will use to kind of strike a good in-between level between performance, between traffic analysis protection. So SPN has had that from day one in like a bit different than, of course, Mobile is doing it, but that's always been kind of the strong thing. And maybe one more note because of PGP, that's also one idea behind SPN where the whole idea of SPN is to enter the SP network as close to your physical location as possible. So SPN will also always choose your home node as close to you as possible. And then at the same time, it chooses the exit node as close to destination as possible. So effectively, SPN tries to take your traffic off the internet as much as it can, which means the routers that are affected by these PGP attacks are also reduced as much as possible, which means the more the SPN network grows, the better your protection against PGP attacks is. And that's because the SPN just takes your traffic off the internet, so to speak, where all of that stuff happens.
Okay, thanks for those additions. Daniel, are you free to keep going for like 10 more minutes? Okay,
sure.
All right,
sure.
let's do that. So yeah, that was a great question about the personal side, and I had this question to you. So now V2 is close to the full release, major milestone for your work as well. Anything you would want to see in V3 and in Portmaster?
Wow.
That's from the. Maybe we can go into that in depth separately, but just maybe for the viewers as well. Anything that you maybe wanted to include here, or something that you would like to see?
So I'm not prepared for this question. So
Okay, no, okay, that's fine. That's fine.
just
All right.
trying to kind of on the top of my head, what would I think would be cool for Portmaster version 3? Well, one thing that Portmaster, or kind of say things started out actually in the very, very, very beginning. It was three things. It was Portmaster, SPN, and there was a third idea that we started working on at the beginning. But
Okay.
soon we realized three ideas for launch is a bit too much.
Okay.
So we killed one. And that was the idea that similar to how like there are communities that manage block lists together, like the communities are like, hey, I found this domain, kind of it does that and that. How about we create such a community, but instead of just doing domains, we share behavioral definitions of applications. And that it would just be such a big step up game in privacy, because and if that integrated kind of into Portmaster would be amazing. If that kind of would have a community kind of with like voting and everything, and then if you see a new application, Portmaster wouldn't just have a yes no option, but it would give you a pop-up with like 3 different templates. You're like, okay, choose a very generous template, choose that template, and then you can maybe a star voting, like how the rating is by the community and stuff like that, so as to have the community members that are very technical, very knowledgeable, be able to empower the less technical community users would be such a huge benefit for everyone starting their privacy journey with Portmaster. And that's just kind of, that's the whole vision that I started out safing with, was empowering the less technical people to have more privacy. So in every feature that kind of contributes to that, I'm like, oh yes, way to go, let's go. And would be super stoked to see anything go in that direction. And there's so many possibilities. And I just kind of outlined one of them. And yeah, I'm so looking forward. If there, at some point, anytime, there's such a feature of like, yes, amazing.
Yes.
So yeah, so that's kind of my just out of the blue, like top of my head reaction.
No, you can keep it coming. Yeah, I mean, we have not discussed this idea, but generally, I like, IVPN has been built with this mindset as well. If you check the apps, if you look under the hood and want to start tinkering with it, then you can do a lot of things. That not everything, but almost anything that any more technical VPN provider would offer to you. But if you don't want to do that, just download the app, press the connect button, and then you're good to go. Of course, this doesn't have this community element built into it that you mentioned. And I think for people who have the inclination to work on these lists and improve these information groups and these information lists, and that actually helps other people who have no idea what they're doing, I think that's a very nice way of the distributed improvement on our lives. So I dig it. That's probably a good segue into one of the things I also wanted to mention, which is you can add this if you want to fill out the survey. That you can add all this. I think we'll talk about this separately. But I wanted to mention that what we're planning to do in the next couple of weeks is to run a survey about Portmaster use. So existing on the existing platforms, how people use it, what they like about it, what they don't like about it, what they are missing, specifically on Windows and Linux, and separately maybe other platforms, what other platforms they are using, what they would like to see. We have done this for IVPN as well. We have a method where we do this completely self-hosted using open source stuff, so it's not like going into anywhere else. We are very strict about this. So yeah, I'm just putting together the question for this, and we'll post I think on the blog and on Discord, maybe through the Portmaster notifications as well. We'll put up a link for that, so anyone can have their say into what they would like to see. And that will inform, after the V2 release, we'll sit down and work on a loose 1-year roadmap and think about the improvements, what else we can add to Portmaster and then SPN besides the IVPN integration. So yeah, and then the other thing is now we are running very short on time, but I wanted to mention one other thing. And this ties into a question that Scaramush had here. Like, what is the future? And also, they mentioned that they are currently paying for both IVPN and Portmaster Pro. Are these going to be integrated together? You have to only pay for once, and you don't have to pay for both separately. Yeah, I think I've hinted at this at previous lives. I cannot share all the details, and the reason for this is they might change. I don't want to promise anything that we cannot keep. However, I can say that on the IVPN side, we are thinking about changing the available plans. So right now we have IVPN Standard, IVPN Pro, and we are thinking about ways how to add more value and change these plans in a way where some of the new services and of course including Portmaster will have a role in that. And I think this is also a good assurance that once we do that, Portmaster is going to be really deeply integrated into our into how we think about what we offer to people in terms of privacy protections. So we are not gonna build different plans where Portmaster is also offered and then not care about the product. So it's just the whole acquisition of SafeThing was around long-term thinking, and that includes the improvement of the product. So I cannot give you all the exact details now, but what you're hinting at and what you would like to see will come in some shape or form later this year. So that's one of the key priorities for some people on the IVPN side that they're working on now, especially on the back end. So we are deep into that project, and I'm very excited to announce the details of that, but I just can't do that yet. So.
Yeah. Very nice. Looking forward to
that. Nice. I think that's roughly it. I'm just looking at the questions, maybe something that we wanted to talk about and missed.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think so. There are some questions around future editions. But yeah, I think I just want to mention, if you have a very specific ask, so about one specific feature or one specific platform or something that you would like to see improved, I think start collecting it for the survey. There will be specific questions, but also you will have a chance to just dump anything you want into an open box. I will give that option, and I'm personally going to go through all of these and not just shove it into an AI tool. So that's not the plan here. So yeah. So Daniel, do you have anything else? Anything that you missed?
I can't remember any other questions at the moment. I think we've covered most of them. There were a couple of similar ones. Yeah. So, but if you feel like there was a specific aspect to your question that we did not answer, please just continue reiterate on the question in the chat, and we will try to cover it there. Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, I think we're through with the questions. Are there any other
Okay.
top topics that we wanted to cover? But I think we're through there too, right?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, so thanks everyone for joining in. If you've joined, I think the viewer count went up quite a lot in the past 10 minutes. If you joined at the end, there will be replay. I
Definitely.
will. This is the first time I'm doing this, but I will definitely take a look and see if that works properly. And yeah, otherwise feel free to reach out via Discord. You can DM us as well, or you can leave a support message as well through our platform.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we really much appreciate you tuning in and asking all these questions. I think this was quite comprehensive. I had fun. So thanks again, Daniel, and for stretching your time.
That was really nice.
We'll continue in some shape or form.
Definitely, I'm super stoked with what IVPN hasn't planned in store for Portmaster, and definitely go and download, check out Portmaster version 2 today. It has been tested by loads of people. Yes, it's still marked as beta, but we feel it's very near to the stable release, and we're preparing that. That's coming the next few weeks. So jump in, test it out. Definitely ready to go. So yeah, I think that's it from my side. Really cool to have done this with you, and also the IPN team. As Victor said, was really great to work with, and I'm super. I sleep so well with knowing that IPN is taking care of Portmaster. And that's just such a great thing.
Nice.
To
Thank you for the feedback on this.
Such a good partnership and relationship with you guys, and seeing like your vision and your heart for privacy and the community. Like that is just amazing. And I'm so happy to
That's great.
Be on that journey with you.
That's great. Happy to hear that. All right, so that's time for goodbye, I think. So yeah thanks everyone. And see you around.
Maybe we'll see you the next time. We're still figuring things out. But yeah.
Okay.
See you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.